You know that feeling, right? When you pour your heart and soul into something and it just doesn't work out. That horrible sinking feeling, the self-doubt that starts creeping in, it's just brutal. But what if I told you there's a powerful secret to chasing your goals without getting stuck on that emotional roller coaster? Well, let's dive right in and figure this out.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to break down this really profound concept for finding peace while you're striving for success. First, we'll tackle the main problem. Then I'll introduce you to two key ideas. After that, we'll look at the common traps people fall into, and I'll share the simple formula to avoid them. We'll even pull some amazing lessons from history, and then, at the end, we'll bring it all together and see what it means for you.
So, let's start with the core problem. And this is something pretty much all of us deal with. The second we don't get the result we wanted, what happens? We start questioning everything. Am I even on the right path? Did I mess something up? Suddenly, our happiness is completely chained to the outcome.
You know, a great way to think about it is like the stock market. For so many of us, our emotions are basically indexed to our success. When things are going great, our mood is way up. But the moment we hit a little setback, our inner peace just crashes. We're basing our happiness on this wild variable that we can't actually control.
So what's the solution here? How do we get off this ride? Well, it all comes down to understanding two really powerful concepts. Now, people get these two mixed up all the time, but when you put them together in the right way, they create this amazing blueprint for a much more stable and fulfilling life.
And here they are, tawasul and tawakkul. Now, it's super important to think of these not as opposites, but more like two essential gears in the same machine. They have to work together to move you forward.
Okay, first up, tawasul. Think of this as the action part. This is you doing everything in your power to get the job done. It's the hard work, the late nights, the planning, the strategy, basically the grind. It's about using every single tool you have to reach your goal. And then you have tawakkul. This is the faith part. It's that deep, profound act of trusting in God, of leaving the final result in His hands. But, and this is key, after you have done everything you possibly could. It's really about learning to let go.
Okay, so where do things go wrong? Well, the problem starts when we lose the balance between these two ideas. When we misunderstand them or try to separate them, it leads to two really common, really unhealthy extremes. And both of them just lead to stress and unhappiness. This imbalance creates two, let's call them failure modes. On one side, you have lazy fatalism. And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you've got obsessive burnout. Let's take a closer look at what each of these really means.
All right, first up, the lazy fatalist. This person takes the idea of trust, tawakkul, and twists it into an excuse. They don't take any action, they avoid all responsibility, and they just shrug and say things like, it's all destiny anyway. But here's the thing, that's not real trust. It's just an excuse for inaction, a way to get out of doing the hard work.
And then you've got the obsessive burnout, and wow, this one is everywhere in our modern hustle culture, isn't it? This is the person who relies only on the means, on tawasul. They become completely obsessed with work, with trying to control every single result. And what does it lead to? Total exhaustion, constant anxiety, and this deep spiritual emptiness. Their peace is just gone, because they carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. So if those are the two extremes to avoid, what's the answer? Well, the secret is finding that sweet spot, that perfect balance that combines both of these ideas. And honestly, the formula for it is beautifully simple.
And this right here, this is the whole key. You start with tawasul, the effort, and you end with tawakkul, the trust. The order is absolutely everything. Action first, then you let go of the outcome.
So think of it like this. It's a two-step process, and the order is non-negotiable. Step 1, you do your part. You commit 100% to the effort, the strategy, the work. You give it your all. And only after you've done that, then you can move to step 2, letting go. Releasing your grip on the final result and trusting that you've done everything you could.
You know, there's a brilliant analogy for this. Just picture yourself as a farmer. What's your job? Well, your job is to plant the seed. You have to water the soil, provide the fertilizer, protect it from pests. You do everything in your power. But whether that seed actually sprouts and grows into a tree that bears fruit, that part, that's just not up to you. That's not your duty.
And you know what's amazing? This isn't some new age self-help idea. This is deep, timeless wisdom. In fact, let's look at a couple of incredible stories from history that bring this principle to life in a really powerful way.
Okay, so for our first story, we have an account where the devil tries to tempt the prophet Jesus, and he uses this really clever, twisted logic to try and trap him. It's a subtle but really profound test of this exact principle we're talking about. So the devil basically says, hey, if everything is by divine destiny, then prove it. Throw yourself off this cliff. If you're destined to live, you'll be fine, right? You see what he's doing? He's trying to twist faith into a demand for a specific result.
But Jesus' response is just brilliant. He completely reframes the whole thing. He says, essentially, a servant has no right to test his Lord. It is God who tests his servant. He's making it crystal clear. It's not our job to test God and demand proof. Our job is to do our duty within the tests that he gives us. We do our part. We don't get to challenge the one who designed the whole system.
Okay, now for our second story. We see this exact same principle, but this time it's on the battlefield. The great warrior king Jalaluddin Khwarazm-Shah is about to go into battle against the unstoppable armies of Genghis Khan. I mean, the odds were just impossibly stacked against him.
So his advisors are trying to pump him up, right? They're trying to boost morale. And they say to him, you will be victorious. God will grant you the victory. They're totally focused on the result, basically telling him that a specific outcome is guaranteed. But Jalaluddin's reply, wow. It is the perfect summary of this entire idea. He just looks at them and says, my duty is to fight. Victory or defeat is God's duty. Just think about that. He understood with perfect clarity where his responsibility ended and where God's began. The line was crystal clear. So, okay, these are amazing stories, but how do we take this ancient wisdom and actually apply it to our modern lives, to our careers, our relationships, all the goals we're chasing? What's the practical takeaway for us, right here, right now?
All right, let's boil this all down to the key takeaways. First, your duty is the effort, not the result. Second, if you want stable, real happiness, you have to base your emotions on the constant. That's your effort and your intention, not on the variable, which is the outcome. And finally, when you really get this, true success isn't measured by your victories anymore. It's measured by your persistence.
And that really leaves us with one final big question to think about. I want you to really reflect on this. Look at your goals, your ambitions, even your anxieties. Is your happiness, your peace of mind, indexed to the result? Or is it indexed to your effort? Is it tied to that unpredictable outcome? Or is it grounded in the one and only thing you can always control? Your sincere effort.